welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I've had the opportunity to film, and I feel like I say that every time I make a video anymore, but it is President's Day and I have off of work, so here I am. I wanted to do a quick video about books that I have read in 2025 so far, so that kind of gives you an idea. Like, we're about halfway through February, or a little bit more than halfway, I guess. And I'm going to talk about these in no particular order. And then I also wanted to talk about my upcoming TBR, books that I'm currently in the middle of, and then do kind of like a book haul at the end for you guys, because I've just accumulated a lot of new books recently, so nothing new there. I'm going to use my phone because I started using Storygraph to record like books that I've been reading, and I've honestly really been liking it compared to Goodreads. I just feel like this is really easy to use. I really like the format. So in no particular order, I recently listened to Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. This was for a book club that I'm a part of, just locally, a group of friends and I get together. I rated this 2 stars. I know some people are probably going to be like, 2 stars? But it's Greek mythology. I have to admit that Greek mythology is not my favorite genre. This was a like feminist retelling of Medusa's story, and there was a lot to this book that I really appreciated. I do feel like for the most part it was pretty well written, and like I said, I listened to it on Audible, so I would say the audiobook was pretty well done. The reasons that I gave it 2 stars is I just felt like there was so much the author could have done with this book that they didn't do. You know, you're going to take creative liberties to begin with. I feel like there was a lot more opportunity that just wasn't taken advantage of. That book just wasn't really for me. Next up was Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I feel like this book is pretty popular, at least I've seen it on Book Talk a lot. I picked this up for like the horse industry romance, and I think if you like millionaire romance books, this would be for you. I gave this 3 stars. It's not something that I'm ever gonna go pick back up again, but it was an entertaining palate cleanser. I will give it that. This next one I rated 4 stars, so we're moving on up. Was Wavewalker by Suzanne Heywood. This was a memoir of Suzanne growing up on a boat and essentially traveling the world with her family. It was kind of emotional and sad in a lot of places in the book. Everything that she went through, where her parents just really didn't seem to be valuing her or her brother's education along the way, and the independence that she had to develop at such an early age. I really enjoyed that book. I don't know that I would read it again, or if it's something that I'm like really gonna rush back to, but as far as memoirs go, I really enjoyed that. Next up was another book club book, and that was The Many Lives of Mama Love. This was another memoir. It was very emotional, and it took me really getting into the book to kind of be on this woman's side of like, you know, she's trying to get her life together. It talks about the prison system and women trying to get their kids back and how difficult it can be to navigate the legal system. Even when, you know, in certain parts of the book, like, she's doing everything correctly to try to get her kids back. And it was very insightful. I think that you should probably look up trigger warnings depending on like, you know, there are a lot of sensitive topics addressed in that book, so I would definitely look up trigger warnings. But overall, I feel like it was a really well-written book. It's definitely not a read for everybody, but I definitely enjoyed going to book club and being able to chat about it. I felt like we had a lot of different points of view. We were able to discuss when we felt like we were on, you know, her side in the book versus feeling sort of resentful towards the main character. Next up we have Onyx Storm. If you really enjoyed, you know, the Fourth Wing series, I would absolutely continue with this. For me, I felt like Iron Flame and Onyx Storm just kind of drug along. I do wish I had listened to this on audio instead of reading it on my Kindle, because I just feel like I probably would have been a little bit more engaged had I listened to this. I just really felt like this was dragging, and I really didn't start to, you know, want to grab this and want to like, I gotta read till the last 30% of this book. So I am in the last 5% right now. I am planning on finishing this as soon as I'm done watching as soon as I'm done watching, as soon as I'm done filming this video. So I will be seeing it through to the end. Like, I'm gonna finish this series. I'm invested, but I just feel like this book could have probably been 200 pages shorter than it is. That kind of leads into my book haul a little bit. So this is my Waterstones copy of Onyx Storm. I have the Waterstones copy of Iron Flame, and then I have the US first edition of Fourth Wing. I obviously had to get this one to match with the sprayed edges and everything, and I do love the artwork on the inside. Moving on to books that I'm currently reading, I am reading Way of Kings. I've really been enjoying this, and I'm honestly super excited to be done with Onyx Storm and get to dive back into this. I am currently 185 pages in. Obviously this is a big book. I still have quite a ways to go, but I know these are super popular, but I do really enjoy Brandon Sanderson's writing, and I think for me personally, this high epic fantasy is going to be more my alley than Onyx Storm is. I feel like the romantic fantasy for me has a time and a place, but truly I'm way more invested in something like Brandon Sanderson right now. That could totally change. There have been some romantic fantasy books that I'm like super invested in. This is what's calling to me at the moment. Kind of totally off the wall, I'm also reading this, which is 8,000 Miles Across Alaska. It is about running the Iditarod Trail. I didn't even know the Iditarod Trail was a thing until very recently, until I discovered this book, honestly. So this is a little bit different, obviously, than my typical fantasy genre, but I am very intrigued by this man's story and what he went through doing this race. He's done it like multiple times. He's finished this race 8 times, which is absolutely insane. Like, there are no words for how difficult this journey was. So really enjoying this. Shout out to my friend for letting me borrow this. This is The Serpent and the Wolf. I am halfway through this. I paused reading it to finish Onyx Storm. Kind of wish I had just finished this, honestly, because I'm really enjoying this. There's just so much like political intrigue beyond just the romance part of this book, and it is not very long, but I'm really enjoying this. Copy is from Aardvark, and this actually inspired me to get signed up with Aardvark. And if you're not familiar, this is not sponsored, obviously, but it is very similar to Book of the Month. So I did end up subscribing, which leads me into my next set of books. So this is kind of my upcoming TBR beyond like what I'm already in the middle of. But I got this from Aardvark, which is We Lived on the Horizon. This is a sci-fi novel. Very excited about that. I don't really know a lot about a bunch of these books that have come in. Just wanted to share them with you. Another one is The Stardust Grail. This was my other book that I purchased from Aardvark. Another sci-fi. I think I want to dive a little bit more into sci-fi this year than I have in the past. Moving on, I got Home Cooking from Book of the Month. This is a super short book. I'm really not sure why I picked this up, but I'm sure it was for a good reason. Next up is an Illumicrate book, Watermoon. I did cancel my Fairy Loot subscriptions, so now I am just down to Illumicrate, Book of the Month, and Aardvark, and pretty much all of these I can skip when I want to, so I felt like those subscriptions worked better for me versus Fairy Loot's very strict, like, you can only skip 4 times a year policy. It was kind of nuts. I think it's 4 times a year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I am definitely trying to cut back on the amount of books that I purchase. And I will say these have been the last few months. This is not just like in the last month I have acquired all of these. But this is a really pretty edition of this book. I don't know how up my alley this one is actually going to end up being. I do think this is really pretty. This one is another Illumicrate. I haven't taken this one out of the plastic yet because I'm not sure. Again, I need to do some reading to see if this is something I actually want to keep. I may end up reselling this on Mercari. I also did pre-order Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. The edges on this really got me. This is one that I would probably otherwise order on my Kindle or borrow from the library, but this was just such a pretty copy that I felt the need to purchase it. Next up is a book that I just randomly found in Barnes & Noble the other day. I went in there to get a gift card for a friend of mine, and I saw this sitting there, and it is another ocean-based sci-fi novel. I'm so excited to read this. I just happened to see it and the cover definitely pulled me in. Again, I really don't know a lot about it, but I had a Barnes & Noble gift card myself, so this came home with me. These last three I did get in the last month. This was my last month's book of the month order. I got Dirty Diana. Look this up and look up the trigger warnings, but I think it is about romance and a woman's sort of like self-discovery about herself, so I thought that sounded interesting, and it's short. I have really been needing just like palette cleansers in between my fantasy novels lately. I also picked up The God of the Woods. I don't know a lot about this, but it's gotten a lot of really good reviews. A couple of my friends really recommended it, so I know this was from July of last year is when it came out, but I'm excited to give it a try. It's about 500 pages, so it is a little bit longer. Definitely excited about this one. And then lastly, I have Black Woods Blue Sky. This one is about, this is the one that was about a woman like living in Alaska. This was my February pick for the month. Yeah, I'm a little intrigued. I'm not sure what genre this is technically, because it almost sounds like a thriller, but the backwoods Alaska aspect of this really caught my attention. So here we are. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned to my next reading update. Have a great day.